They?
Yep, kicked their ample
Their royal
rear
patooties?
derrieres. They did. Yep.
They kicked the royal patooties, the royal derrieres.
What I didn't know when in softball, at least in Olympic softball, if a team has establishes a 7-point lead, the game is over.
Is that right?
Yep.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, Japan just won 8-1 in the bottom of the 5th inning, because 8-1, so they had a 7-point lead, and
Wow.
called the game right then. It's like,
Really?
that's it.
That's it.
You're done.
You won.
Yep.
Everybody off the field. Wow. That's interesting, man. Wow. Hey, Dan, should I sponsor your work? How do I do that? It says, you subscribe to Daniel. Show your support by starting a sponsorship.
Yeah, sponsor me for $500,000 a month there.
That's almost my whole salary.
Well,
just kidding.
That's only the one that's on one set of books. The other set of books, that's just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Okay. I might sponsor you, man. What's in it for me? No. Yeah. I'm going to check it out. How do I do that?
I don't.
Okay.
You click on sponsor and tell me how much. Tell them how much you want to sponsor me for.
I see. You can do like 1, 5, 10.
Yeah.
20, $500,000.
Yeah.
500 million.
You do that, I'll send you a personalized PDF file, certificate of recognition of your financial support of my programming. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Seeing as how you're retiring.
Yeah, I need to develop some new income streams here. That's for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, good. I didn't know that about Japan beating Australia. No,
it just happened.
That's interesting.
Just finished.
Wow. Okay. Just finished. Wow.
Yeah, just about 10 minutes ago, something like that. Yeah.
Is this a pregame or is this a qualifying game or what?
This is whatever the qualifying game. They started. I guess they've started, and that's about all that was on today. It started at 8:15, I guess. The program started showing, and just ended. But like I said, so that must have been when the pregame and all that started. But yeah, the game just ended. I was watching it. Melbourne Dave was on here, so we were, it was interesting because wherever he was watching it, I was on like about a 30-second delay. So he was going, the batter got hit by the pitch. I said, what? Oh, and then 30 seconds later they get hit by the pitch. I said, okay, all right, I see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. I was on a time delay, I guess. I don't know.
So he's in Australia, I guess. Melbourne Dave.
Yep.
Melbourne Dave. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's cool. There's also a Dave Boland, who works at a nearby university, who's also on HAPS from Australia.
There's a Dave in Japan, or Dave in Osaka, I think, also.
Oh, really?
HAPS. Yeah.
Oh, okay. From Australia?
No. I don't know where he's from, but there's a Dave. There's another Dave in Australia, or Dave in Japan somewhere. Osaka, maybe Osaka. Yeah, Dave in Osaka, I think.
How was your week, Dan?
So far so good. Finished up my last Tokai class. All I got to do is figure out how many of them I want to pass and how many of them I want to see again next year.
You're not going to put any on the firing squad?
I'm definitely going to have some that are going to have to try again next year.
Really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I've got a few that didn't take the final exam, and some that missed, like half the classes and so on. So, the good students are okay, and the bad students, I don't even know why they bothered to register. They ought to just have their parents write a check to the university for 8 years and say, hey, I paid for 8 years. You ought got to give me a
Oh,
degree
wow.
now, you know.
8 years. Gosh. All right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the limit, right? I
Yeah.
think in Japan, that's the standard. You know,
That's the limit.
you can't be an undergraduate for more than 8 years.
That's right. So they've been there 8 years, or you're just saying
I'm so,
just write a check and then get out of here?
I've got, let's see, one class. So let's see. This year is the ones, right? So this is the one because this is 21, right? So the ones. So we've got one from 2016.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, so he came in 2016. So 16. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So he's a sixth year student, right? Sixth year student.
Right. Starting 6th year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
okay. Yeah.
I've got two of those, and one is not going to pass.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, actually, he's got a chance. He's got
Really?
a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. There you go.
The other, so one of them looks like he finally is going to pass, but one of them it's not decided yet. So.
Woo. Okay. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Tough Dan. I know. I remember you saying one time a kid had a job lined up.
Yep.
He was a 4th-year student, and you didn't pass him because he didn't come to class.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, yeah.
I told him, look, you know, if you don't come to class, then give me an excuse, and you know that's fine, right? Or you know, and you know, I said, or even if your attendance is poor, but if you show me by your test scores that you can do this level of work, you know, that you can do the work, then I'll pass you, right? You know, just barely pass, and I'll pass you, right? You know, even if your attendance is terrible, even if you haven't turned in the assignments that I gave, you know, if you can show me through your test that you could do the work, I'll pass you. But the guy missed, you know, 2/3 of the classes, and only like twice did he give me an excuse. You know, I mean, he probably, you know, most of the, or you know, more than that were probably excusable, but he only actually turned in the work, the paperwork for 2 absences, and I gave 2 tests, a midterm and a final test, and he got less than 50% on both the tests. I think he got like 38% or 40% on both tests, right? And I said, look, you know, you just haven't given me anything at all to work with. You know, if you'd come to class and you did poorly, I'd say, well, at least he's trying, right? You know, or if you didn't come to class and you know got you know, passing test scores, even I told him, you know, even 50%, you know, if you got 50% on even one of the tests, then I could at least say, well, you know, it's weak, but you know, 40%. I couldn't in good conscience. I mean, because if I gave him, I couldn't imagine how I could ever fail anybody.
Right. Sure. There you go. Right. Point taken. Absolutely. He has to try. He has to show some interest.
Yeah.
Of course. Right. It's very important.
You know, he made the mistake of you know putting the emphasis on finding a job rather than making sure that he was qualified for the job to begin with, right? You know, you got to have a degree. If you don't pass your classes, you don't get the degree, then you're not qualified for the
you know. Well, that's kind of what's different in Japan, though. You know, when students get, or at least it was in the old school university system, right? You know, you get into university and kind of you can make it through. Right, it's sort of an old boys club, and
but even
one
then,
person introduces the next to the other, right? Yeah,
even
you're
then,
right. Sure.
Even then, the assumption is that you will attend class. At this school, I have a lot of students that aren't very academically inclined, but you know, so those students are really very careful about their attendance, right? It's like, you know, I got to have something going for me. You know, the teacher can pass me if I just, you know, have a good enough attendance, right? So they're like, you know, really on top of their, you know, if I make a mistake and count them absent even once, you know, over the course, you know, when they actually were there, you know, they'll call me on and say, hey, you know, teacher, I was there that time, right? They're all up in the air about their attendance, but they may go the whole term without ever turning in a classroom assignment, you know?
Yeah. That's important too, right? Turning things in.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
but to them,
Yeah.
it seems like attendance is more important than the classwork.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, that's where they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
People, yeah. Oh, and I did get one award. Oh, and there we are finally. Boy, that was a long
Yeah.
delay there getting the
Wow.
screen back up. But
Yeah. There you go. I don't think you sent me the question, so I have no idea what we're going to talk about today.
well, I didn't know what we were going to talk about today until I sat down at the
Oh, 5 minutes
computer and
ago.
yeah.
Okay, right. How to
So
ride a bicycle?
yeah, something like that. I thought this one was kind of interesting. Should full access
That's
to the internet be a
interesting.
fundamental human right?
Yeah. That's it. That's interesting. Well, I mean, the internet costs money, right? So
Yeah.
I think as if you can afford it, it's right. It should be your right to have full access, right?
But I think that's kind of the implication here is that the internet is, I mean, it is this huge
Okay.
amount of information that should be free to everybody. Everybody should have access. This is information about the world, about what's happening, about everything that's going on and so on. Educational information, social things, things that are going on, that everybody should have access to that information.
Even if they can't afford it, you're saying, yeah.
Well, I mean, because so what are some rights that you think humans should have? Should it be a human right to have access to clean air, to clean water, to education? Should that
Yeah.
be a human right?
Yeah. The internet question is it's the powers that be that are taking advantage to be able to charge money for that information. I agree that it should be free and we should have the access to all the information. I agree. The powers that be are taking advantage and charging money to have access to this information. It's almost like energy, right? When Tesla, right, found that energy was all around us, right? And it wasn't until the powers that be, kind of took advantage of that and started charging for electricity, right?
Right.
It's just, I think it's a similar thing.
Okay, so let's look at this question carefully. Okay, should full access to the internet be a fundamental human right? Okay, so I wanted to get clear on this. So what are human rights? Human rights are rights we have simply because we exist as human beings. They are not granted by any state. These universal rights are inherent to us all, regardless of nation, blah, 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 right? And, this one says human rights are inalienable. They should not be taken away. But actually, if you look up inalienable, if you look up the definition, it says inalienable, unable to be taken away from or given away by the possessor.
The possessor.
Okay. So
that
inalienable means it cannot
person...
be taken away.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. But here it says should not be taken away. Well, if they're inalienable, they cannot be taken away. If they can be taken away, then they're not inalienable rights.
Right. Yep. No, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, human rights are, rights that are inherent. Inherent, again, that's existing in something as a permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute. So a permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute is inherent. Okay. Oops. So universal rights are inherent to us all. Give me one human right by these definitions. Just give me one, and then we'll talk about whether internet is, should be one. But just give me one human right.
One human right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. The right to clean air.
No, it's not. That can be taken away.
And clean water.
That can be taken away.
Everything can be taken away.
Exactly. And so therefore, by their definitions, human rights do not exist.
I see where you're getting at.
Every right is basically a social contract,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Every right is
Well,
basically a social
right.
contract.
Technically, it has
Right.
become that way.
No,
Right.
it always has been, I would argue. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
the right
okay. Now we're
to life.
separating though the actual fact from how we feel about it, right?
Okay, but how we feel is subjective. So if we look at it, if we try to look at it objectively, then there can be no such thing as human rights, right? Objectively,
Objectively,
because
yeah.
even the
Because
right to life, right? So every human has the right to live. Okay, the right to not be killed. Well, that can be taken. People are murdered, so that right is taken away from them. So even that is not real. An inalienable right. Okay, so now if we talk about what we agree to as a society, yeah, like I said, then it's all a social contract.
But that's maybe why they put should in the definition, right? Should have these rights. Yeah. Should. Maybe they're already acknowledging that. No.
Yeah,
In your definition on the internet, yeah, that you found, right? They said should have
should
these
not be taken
rights.
away.
Yeah.
Right.
Should not be taken away, right?
Okay, but that again,
S-
anytime you say should, that's a value judgment. And a value judgment is from a certain perspective. Okay. Now, all right. So if we're talking about human rights, then that should apply to absolutely every human, regardless of what kind of person or what kind of mental ability or what kind of thinking they conduct in their own minds, that it should apply to them, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Absolutely. Right.
Okay,
And,
but
the way I feel about it, and yeah, it's subjective. But yes, I mean, I think that everyone should have all rights.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. But there are psychopaths. They are
Hmm.
humans.
Right.
And
That's
they
right.
might
That's
say,
right.
I should have the right to go out and kill people if that's what trips my trigger. I should have, they think that should be okay for me.
Then we're talking about like the right to bear arms and the right to defend yourself, and all of these other things go into that, right?
Right. And my
Too.
point, yeah, and my point from that is that it's subjective. It's within the individual. Now, the fact that, the overwhelming majority of humans on this planet believe that we all should have the right to life, to liberty, to the pursuit of happiness, to clean water,
Right.
clean air, and an education. I mean, the huge majority of people believe that, but that's just it. It's the huge
Yeah. No.
majority. It's not every single individual on the planet believes that. So does that mean that it's might makes right? The majority rules? No. If
Yeah.
that's the
Not in
case,
this
then it's not
case.
objective. It's totally subjective. Because then what our rights are change over time. Absolutely. Our rights change over time. That's
Right.
okay.
Sure.
If our rights are changing over time, it's like, well, they were never really nailed down at any point. They're totally fluid. Our rights are fluid. And that doesn't strike me, as being a real right. I mean, that's just like, well, the current situation is such. That doesn't describe a right.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
describing
No.
the current situation.
Yeah. I mean, the majority maybe feel that they should have all these rights. The fact is they don't. You're right, absolutely right. And it's just interesting because that's, a human construct, probably. Yes. I
Mhm.
mean, animals certainly probably would not feel that way, right?
Right.
They know they don't have the rights to food. They have to fight for it, right? Or
Exactly.
shelter, or
Exactly.
so it's a human construct, which is interesting.
Mm.
And who created the level of rights anyway, right? I mean,
Again,
it's
I would say
it,
it's
it's
developed through a
societal,
social contract, right? I mean, yeah,
social
we came
contract, social
together, right?
construct.
In the
That's
same
right.
way that we come to to governments. I mean, over time we have realized that as individuals we are vulnerable. That by collecting into societies and looking after each other's butts, I mean, having developing some type of police to help, protect us, that we, beyond the scope of what we could do as individuals,
Yes.
that's more fair. But that's a social construct. That's not a right.
Yeah.
And to my way of thinking,
Yeah, I mean, many people, have all these things, right? So they already have these things, right?
Mm-hmm,
They have a
mm-hmm.
job, they have shelter, they have, water, food, right? They've got whatever they want, basically. So I think they might transfer that meaning to be a right for everyone, right? But it's not, obviously, sure.
Right.
Um,
I,
and I'm not sure if it can be,
I
right,
mean,
for everyone.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's just, I mean, people throw right around,
Yeah,
people
they do.
to do this, and okay, what exactly mean? So the come to us as a society that this is something that we feel is best. And by we feel it's best, again, we simply, in a democratic way, the majority feels that way, or the people that are pulling the strings, the people that are wielding the power and putting the things in place are agreeing that is a right.
Yeah. So having said that, do you think it's in each country's constitution to decide that?
But
Or well,
I
the
mean,
reason I'm asking is because kind of looser countries, or countries like the United States, for example, have really kind of taken that. They expand that meaning, right? They stretch the boundaries,
mm-hmm.
Quite a lot, right? As far as like taking advantage of people or what have you, and making money, and the right to do this and that, and to have what they want to have, right? Even if it steps on a few people's toes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they have, it's kind of almost in the Constitution, or at least the boundaries are stretched from that.
Right. So each country, I guess, has their own constitution, but then
Mm-hmm.
we have we have organizations. Who is it that are the watchdogs for worldwide human rights? That talk about human rights violations.
Yeah, there are a couple watchdogs.
Right.
I can't really. Yeah,
And
indeed. Yeah.
so I mean, the one that,
Amnesty International, isn't that one?
yeah,
Amnesty International.
right, yeah,
I think was
they're
a
one of the watchdogs and so on. But yeah, it seems like there's more quasi governmental international not kind of like the WHO, but not with health, but with human rights and so on. It seems like there's some kind of organization that slips my mind now, but so for example, the one that comes to my mind is when in the Philippines became president and went to clean up by focusing on cutting down on the methamphetamine trade and usage and so on there that had been doing to the country. And people, these NGOs or whoever they are, these agencies were looking, those are human rights violations, right? Now he's the president, and he was doing it within the framework of his government. But then outside, people were outside were saying, that's human rights violations. We're trying to put pressure on him. He's the president of the country. Who has the right to put pressure on him as to how to conduct his programs within his own country?
Yeah. I see. I mean, yeah, right. I mean, I agree cleaning up that problem for sure.
I mean, who,
yeah. I understand what you're saying. Who has the right to tell him to do that?
How many Americans? How many? I mean, we've had some concerns in America at the borders, especially recently. How many people? How many Americans would be comfortable if the Philippines or Japan or China or Russia or Slovak or whoever, Germany, came and over and said, look, you guys are violating those people held at the border. You're violating their human rights. You have to treat them better than that. I mean, America would say, no, that's within our jurisdiction. And yet, you got people, you got places like the Philippines where, other places are ready to stick their nose in their business and say, oh, those are human rights violations. Now, it's got to be, to me, in my mind, it should be one way or the other. Okay, either within the country, you are a sovereign nation and you do things, according to the way things that are agreed within your nation, or you recognize the fact that humanity has a say in every country how they do things when it affects people on their human rights levels, right? One way or the other.
Yeah, I think the word right is a slippery slope, kind of, right? It's a little bit slippery, right? Maybe, I don't know, should everyone have at least the openness or the allowance to pursue everything everyone else does? Maybe that's a better way to put it, right? If you look at Africa and things like that, there are a lot of people, and even Cambodia, people are fighting for clean water over there all the time.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
They're trying to dig wells and trying to get, access to water.
Yeah. If we just talk about rights are legal, social, or ethical principles of freedom or entitlement. That is, rights are the fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory.
I think some of those have been, changed over the years, right? I mean, that's, when you look at the legal system now, right? Things haven't been perhaps the way they had been in the 18th and 19th century. But so now they're expanding the law, right? The legality of it to suit themselves. And then we get into another kind of slippery slope. Yes.
Well, I mean, equality is another problem because, people are not equal. I mean, in an objective sense. I mean, they may have equal value, but they are not equivalent, right? If you put an equal sign between any two individuals, that's not a true statement, right? They are not, one person is not equal to any other person, right? Their value as a human being, right, may be equal.
Of course, physically, mentally, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Right. In so many ways. And so, but people blur that or ignore the differences, and so you don't even want to treat everyone the same, right? You don't want to treat everyone the same. You don't want to say, okay, right, in order to pass this physical education class, everybody has to climb that tree, and you people in the wheelchairs, you're under the same, no, you don't do that, right?
Right, you don't do that. But, there are people, and it's interesting to me how people came to that belief that there are people, though, who do want to be treated like everyone else, right? They do want to have that equality, they themselves.
Yeah.
Like, just an example, you used a person in a wheelchair. I've had, a few instances over the years where I've had wheelchair bound students in my classroom, right? One was at my own university, and he, obviously wanted to be treated like everyone else, but he couldn't even talk. Yeah. Right. Which he was a very severe case. And of course, everyone was really kind to him. We all helped him, right? Brought him into class. And, usually we share on the board where students are running up to the whiteboard, right? Or we did anyway. Running up to the whiteboard doing, pair work, group work and whatnot. And he couldn't participate in that, but yet he wanted to. Yes. So I thought that was a very interesting situation.
Right.
He kind of could talk a little bit, and he did have a partner in the classroom who helped him and got his answers for certain exercises we were working on, and would respond his answers to all of us.
Yeah, I mean,
so, but why are there people who do want that, though?
Well, I mean, I think it's. I don't know, but that doesn't apply to me, so it's a total guesswork. But I would guess, for some of them, it might be that they feel a stigma attached to their condition, and they want to overcome that stigma by saying, look, I don't need any special treatment. You can treat me the same as everybody else, to try and say, there should be no stigma attached to my condition, right? They're trying to avoid that stigma, which makes sense.
Yeah. And how about the girl recently in America who wanted to join the guys' football team,
Uh-huh.
the high school football team, I think it was,
Uh-huh.
and she was allowed,
Oh.
right?
Oh.
Yeah, you didn't hear about that? Gosh, I forget where it was and what the situation was, but she was allowed to join the boys' football team, or
Yeah.
the football team, right? Obviously, she's going to have, differences in body size and whatnot, right?
Right.
Uh,
But again,
yeah, I mean, that was
anything,
her own thing. Yes, of course. We can't say why necessarily.
right? But like anything else, related to humans, we're all on a spectrum. Every aspect of being a human is on a spectrum, right?
Right, and that just goes to show to me, right? It shows me the changing nature of rights. Yeah,
right.
Kind of expanding the boundary or pushing the boundary of legality.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe we talked about it, but I read a story was it Asimov? I think it was Asimov, and the name of the story was the name of one of the characters, and this was at a time set sometime in the future when it was determined by law that everybody must be equal. Everybody must be equal. And the way they did that is by handicapping more physically, enabled people, right? So,
Wow. Okay.
so for example, people with normal eyesight would be given glasses that would reduce their eyesight so that they couldn't see so well, right?
Wow.
And people that were extremely intelligent would, for example, one of the characters in the book had, above average intelligence. He had to wear some kind of a headset at all time, and periodically loud sounds would be played to distract him and break his concentration, so he couldn't,
oh, really?
maintain,
I have to read that story. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like imperfecting the perfect ones. Yeah.
Exactly.
Almost,
because people that, have a certain, physical limitations, there's only so much, given our technology level, there's only so much we can do in order to normalize their experience, right? So we bring them up as far as we can, and then we have to bring everybody else down to exactly the same level, right? So you have to find the least common denominator, and that's what everybody has to live with.
Yeah, huh. That's interesting.
Nobody would want that. Nobody would want that.
Nobody would want that. No one would agree to that.
No, of course not. But that's kind of the thing, that we're
kind of
moving toward.
We're almost heading to. I was just going to say almost heading towards, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And when they start talking about implants and things, it might be heading to that situation.
Yeah. So, all right. So, yes or no? Should full access to the internet be a fundamental human right?
No.
I say yes.
Okay.
All right. But okay. Are there? I mean, if we had such a thing as fundamental human rights, which that's a question in itself. But assuming that there is such a thing as fundamental human rights, what would be a fundamental if internet access is not one of them? What would be a fundamental human right?
Let's take all the other things out of it, all the legality, all the money, all the rules out of it. I would say yes, of course. All humans have the right to. All humans have the right to receive knowledge, right?
What else?
Through the internet. Yeah,
could you name? I mean, could you count? Well, could you count all the fundamental human rights on two hands?
No, but I mean the right to education, the right to clean air, the right to medical care, the right to shelter. Yeah, I think the right to safety. Yeah, that's pretty much the right not to be murdered, as I
Mm.
expands safety to mean something
Right.
like that, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So those kinds of things. Yes.
Right.
How about you?
So those are things that absolutely everybody, to
Yeah, if you
the
take
extent
out the
possible that the society could do those things should be absolute for everyone.
and of course knowledge, information, these access points, right?
So that
So
would
you
mean,
wouldn't?
well, okay, so that would mean that, for example, uh,
But now
serial,
I'm also saying that I'm able to afford internet access, so I should have that right. But perhaps other people, right, uh, who might not be able to, right, uh, kind of physically do something, uh, maybe not should not be allowed, but might not have that opportunity.
right?
But that's
Okay,
okay, right? Because I
okay.
don't have opportunities to do everything either, right?
So, according to what you just said, then you would be against the death penalty in any situation.
Against the death penalty,
You would absolutely 100% come down against the death penalty, right?
not necessarily.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You said that every
I no,
a fundamental
I
human
gave
right
you,
should be the right to not be killed by, somebody else. And so the death
and I'm
penalty is that what you just said. So,
well, I'm just taking everything else out of it, just from
right,
a fundamental standpoint.
right.
I'm
So,
not saying that somebody is going to kill me or even threaten to kill me, but I do have the right to safety.
right. So, because you have that right, every other human has that right. And
Every
so
other human
nobody
has
should
that
ever
right
be
too.
killed by somebody else. So, therefore, that takes out the death penalty.
I mean, if you want to go into the little innuendos and nooks and crannies,
Yes, exactly. Because
yeah,
that's
but
the devil is in the details, so to speak.
yes, but I'm
Be-
just saying the fundamentality of it. Yeah, the just the square box without going out into the little alleyways. Yeah,
Well,
as
no,
it were.
that's what I want to do. Is like this is a solid border. There's no there's no gaps in this boundary, right? So human right is to not be killed by another person, and if that is a human right, then we can't have the death penalty because that involves taking the life of another person. So
Well, safety. I mean, I did put that little innuendo in there, right? That not to be killed, not to be murdered, right?
well,
Maybe
I
I
think
should retract that.
the
But yeah,
ultimate
the right to
safety
safety.
is maintaining your life, right? Is not being killed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's the ultimate safety. I mean, not only not being injured, right, which would be a lesser degree, but to not be killed, yeah, that
Sure. Right. Yeah, there's so many other things that go into that too. There's war, there's crime, there's right, there's
right. So war would be
there's
impossible. I mean, at least to the extent that you can't, I mean, if safety is a human right, then you can't, you know, it would be a human rights violation to actually ever shoot another person, right? And so,
Mhm.
what would you do in a war, or shoot, or explode a bomb in their
Well, then
vicinity?
we shouldn't have wars. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you get
Period.
no
Right.
argument from me, right? You get no
Yeah.
argument from
Yeah.
me. The thing is,
Right.
what we said before about human rights, these are things that at least the majority of people, the huge majority of people agree to. And so I don't think you're going to get that because you got these politicians that are not going to agree to that. And
Yeah. No,
unfortunately, politicians are part of the human population.
they are. That's right. Exactly. Exactly. So I don't think there's a good answer uh,
Right. Okay.
to this one. Yeah.
So, all
I
right.
mean, like that's what kind of why I didn't want to go outside of the box, right?
No, but but that's why I'm
No,
saying,
I know what you mean. I
that's
know
in
what
the
you mean.
box. That is in the
I
box. That is
I
the
know what you
box.
mean.
Yeah.
I know. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's yeah.
Okay.
It's
So,
a
and every human has the right to, what'd you say? Clean water,
what did I say? Yeah, healthcare. Okay, put it that way.
healthcare. Okay. So healthcare should be free.
See, that's why I go outside of the
Well,
box, right?
because no,
I didn't
that
want to
is the
bring in
box.
all the other stuff. Yeah. Oh,
No,
yeah, it
what
is
other
the
stuff?
box, but no, it is the box. But I'm just saying I'm saying has a right to. That's it. That's all.
So a
Right?
person,
That's all
so
I'm saying. Yeah.
okay, so a person who has no money is still a
Yes.
person, and so they
Yes.
still have the right to
Yeah.
health care.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Sure, sure,
Okay.
sure. And they also, yeah,
And
have
they
the right
also
to
have the
clean
right
air
to
or clean
shelter, as you said.
water,
They also have the right to
shelter.
clean water. Okay, so
And in a perfect world, it would be possible. Sure. I think, and everybody feels, I'm sure the majority feel that we should all have those rights. Unfortunately, it's not to be. It's impossible, I think, basically.
okay.
I feel it's important. It would be important, right, in a perfect world.
Okay, so
I
human
think
rights
it's
that we should
impossible.
have, but actually, for all practical purposes,
Well,
we're never going to have. Okay, so what good are those
I
kind? I mean, that's I mean, that's
what
kind of an interesting thought experiment, I guess, but it doesn't get us anywhere.
I'm interested in the Tesla. When was it? The electricity
Oh, free
in the
electricity.
yeah,
Yeah,
free
yeah.
electricity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm interested in that point, right?
Hmm.
Because he discovered that electricity was all around us, and it wasn't until Edison came along, and right, they were kind of at odds with each other around that point. Edison wanted what was it, AC, or he wanted DC only, I guess.
Right. Edison
And
wanted
and
DC,
and
and
Tesla
Tesla
wanted
wanted AC. Yeah.
AC, right? And because he knew that electricity was all around us, free for the taking,
Hmm.
but yet he was kind of stamped upon, right? And now, of course, it costs money
Yep.
to get electricity, right?
Yep. Yep.
Uh, so I think every kind of unfortunately, society kind of molds things in their own direction, so to speak. Of course,
Hmm.
in the old days, it was by billionaire company holders, right?
Hmm.
Who were able to do these kinds of things and make these decisions,
Hmm.
and it's gone too far now. I think, right, in that direction. So,
Mm.
don't you agree? I mean, I think it's impossible to actually take that back now, right? I don't think there will ever be the right to free electricity, if you would say so.
I don't know.
Uh,
I mean, it depends. It depends. I see that as a possibility. I really do. I see that as a possibility. I mean,
mhm,
why not?
mhm.
I mean, given the right advances in technology in the right areas, I mean, that's something that could happen.
It would be great, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it could happen. Sure,
I mean,
sure, sure.
if fission reactors, as opposed to, or I'm sorry, if fusion reactors,
Fusion. Hmm.
if fusion became,
They still haven't
viable.
perfected that, but
No, no, no,
when
no,
they
not at all, not at all. But
when they do,
if
right?
that would
Yeah.
happen, and then which would give us, huge amounts, relatively, relative to now, huge amounts of very, very cheap electricity, and also relatively safe, production of electricity and so on. In that case, yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah. How about water too? Water, a lot of sources of water have been controlled now,
Privatized. Yep, yep.
privatized, and you have to basically buy water in most countries, I guess, if not all. I mean, I remember in Cambodia, right, they have a lot of water access through Tonle Sap Lake and whatnot. They're not on the coast,
Hmm.
but they've got rivers and they've got water. A lot of it's polluted, but they're in the process of cleaning it up. But even in Cambodia, they have wells. They've got access to water, and even more so now than when I went there.
Hmm.
But they were even selling bottled water, right? I mean, right? Even though they did have access
Mm.
to it, right? So
Yeah.
how about that too? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had access, but yet it was taken control of, and they had to kind of buy their own water.
Okay, but if we had that, if we had, okay, so human rights in our perfect world, our theoretical perfect world here, okay, so people have the right to safety, to not being, killed
Hmm.
by,
Hmm.
others, or being, injured by others, basically. They have the right to safe food to eat. They have the right to safe water to drink. They have the right to education. They have the right to health care, right? They have the right to shelter. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, right. In a perfect world.
Okay,
and of course, now of course we're getting into the thing. Well, who's going to pay for it? But I mean,
exactly.
Not even in that constraint. Like the energy days, right? It was found out the energy was free, right? They didn't have to pay for it. That's what I'm talking about. Like, beyond that, the pay for it type of a thing, right? You know what I mean? Like, if the payment wasn't even included in the situation, if it wasn't in the equation, of course that's the thing. Somebody has to pay for it. Absolutely, of course. Right. But I'm talking in the perfect world where, in Tesla and Edison's case, when there was free electricity, and yet now we're still paying for it. Yeah. There's water access, and yet we still have to buy bottled water, right?
So
that's what I mean.
But so right? If people are arguing for for what human rights people should have,
what do you say, Dan? What do you think? I mean, you know what I mean?
Again, it's like I said, I don't really believe in fundamental human rights. I think everything is a negotiation. Absolutely everything is a negotiation.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
I actually kind of object to the whole idea of saying, well, this is a fundamental human right. I mean, I don't believe in that concept. I mean, I personally, think that, yes, I mean, the internet and the amount of information that is there, that information, the easy access to that amount of information, I want that to be available to every human on the planet, right? I want that, but that's just something that I want. I don't see it as a human right. I want that. I want to move toward that, but that's what I want. It's not a human right.
Right. I gotcha. So you're kind of more in the realm of like negotiation, you said.
Yep.
It's almost kind of like you fighting for what you want and need.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily fight. I mean, fighting, I guess, is one way to describe that. But yeah, it's negotiating to use influence in order to move toward something that I see as better. Right. The thing is, what I see as better doesn't necessarily agree with what other people see as better. I mean, my mother, talking about, political things and what they, want for him. I mean, I see, advantages to open borders. But people like the majority of Americans don't want the borders open. America spent 230 years collecting the wealth of the world and accumulating it within the borders of the United States. They certainly don't want a bunch of foreigners coming in and taking it back, right? They want to keep it all to themselves, right?
But there's still one of the most open countries, though, right? I
no,
think or at least they were.
Yeah,
I mean, like when you compare
historically
to other
speaking,
countries, historically speaking, yes. Like
you go back to the Statue of Liberty era, when that was still a new thing. Yeah. But it's been a long time since America has had any kind of an open door.
I've known quite a few people who are able to get green cards and permanent residency, right, in America.
Yeah,
sure. Even more so than like Japan, for example, or other countries, and even the EU is pretty stiff on that.
Canada is pretty tight.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Okay. Oh yeah, Canada's quite tough to get. To get. I don't know about immigration, but to get citizenship, it's very tough.
Wow. Okay.
I think even to apply for permanent residence, it's rather difficult.
Yeah, I knew a guy in Kumamoto who actually was from Canada, and he became a knife maker here in Kumamoto and
Right.
immigrated to the United States and became a citizen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess it wasn't that difficult for him going the other way. Yeah. I don't know. Going to Canada. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
I
it's
mean, yeah,
tough.
there are a lot of countries that I'm sure are probably more difficult than America is. Um, to get a permanent residence, or to get citizenship and so on,
But
right?
you're right. Yeah, no, they don't want to give away their wealth. You're right. They want to accumulate wealth, and they want to bring the brains over to America, right?
Which
And
is the case everywhere. I mean, the people
sure.
that have a skill that's in demand in a certain place, they're the ones that are either sought after or most readily accepted, as permanent residents and citizens and so on, right?
Yes, indeed. Woo. Oh, what a good question. Gosh, I feel like we can go on for 5 more hours.
We could, we could.
Dan, will you give me an A if I keep going on?
No.
Oh.
How about this one? I like this one. Has the invention of the
Oh my
atomic bomb
gosh.
made the world a more peaceful place?
A more peaceful place. Wow, yeah, that's a really good thought-provoking question too, isn't it? Because after that, uh, things kind of got a little more peaceful to a degree.
We haven't had World War III. I mean,
That's
we've
right.
come close, but yeah, we haven't had
That's
another
right.
World War since the
Had
the
another
the
world
bomb
war.
dropped. Yeah.
That's right. And a lot of countries have said, well, no nuclear weapons, right? No
Yep.
war,
Yep.
right? Defense forces only, right? Let's not go that direction anymore.
I mean,
Uh,
there have been, border disputes and international conflicts and so on. And I mean, things that we're seeing now, which are troubling. For example, China in the South China Sea, the Spratly Islands, the area between
mm,
China, Vietnam, and the
yes,
Philippines, in that
yes.
area.
That is a weird thing going on down there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird, but I mean, if there was no nuclear deterrence, I mean, if I think it would be a whole different dynamic there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it,
Mm,
if there wasn't the fear that, okay, if this escalates too much, somebody might pull out the big guns, the nuclear guns, right? If it went that far, I mean, if there was what we've seen since World War II, since the bombs dropped, we've seen these proxy wars, in
mm.
Korea, in Vietnam, and
Yeah, there's
other,
also, right, Iran and North Korea, right?
right,
Producing, nuclear weapons and whatnot,
right,
and kind of showing their stuff.
right.
That's
But
what you mean, I guess. Yeah.
no, no, no. What I was saying is, so we went through the Cold War, and right now we have issues with especially China now, because of
Mm-hmm.
things that we just talked about and so on. But there hasn't been any direct conflicts between the Soviet Union when there was the Soviet Union in America. We fought in North Korea, or North and South Korea. We fought in North
Right.
and South Vietnam. There were proxy wars, right? We weren't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually fighting the Russians.
Right.
We
Sure.
were
Right.
each
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
supplying
yeah.
our own
We were
side, right?
helping out.
Um,
Yes. Right.
Whereas if there was no nuclear war or a nuclear bomb, there might have been that might have escalated into more direct conflict between the superpowers. It might have
Oh, it sure could have,
turned into
for
a
sure.
conventional war, right? But because
Absolutely.
there was that fear of, hey, if this gets out of hand, we're going to blow the whole planet to smithereens. Well, then we,
Mm-hmm,
we got to keep it on this proxy type of thing, right?
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
in that way, maybe the atomic bomb is a good thing. It does,
Mm-hmm,
make
mm-hmm.
people think about, hey, I can only escalate this so far.
Right. Only escalated so far, and I don't want to push that red button.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So how
Yeah.
about the thing in China? The Spratly Islands,
Uh-huh.
like we were just talking about.
Uh-huh.
Without the nuclear threat, do you think that would have escalated by now?
I think
Right.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. I think, that it would have turned into a real conflict, I think there would have been, I mean, there've already been fishing boats sunk, but I think there would probably be, actual military action going on there, people, trying to defend their position. And it'd be very messy because you've got Vietnam and Philippines and China all with claims in the area. Maybe Cambodia too. I can't remember now.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it would be super messy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, the United States would get involved because they're in Okinawa, and
Taiwan is in the area,
Taiwan is in
so
the area.
the more the China spreads out, yeah,
Exactly.
the
And
wider,
how about that? How about China's situation with Taiwan too? That's
that's
kind of
not
a
looking good.
slippery slope. No, that's
Yeah.
a tightrope, right?
Yeah.
It's not looking good. Fascinating area we live in for sure.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, I think things, might crumble a little bit in the near future.
It's very,
It's
very
looking
unsure. Yeah.
very unsure, right?
Yeah.
And the nuclear bomb might, the atomic bomb, nuclear weapons might keep it at bay,
Maybe.
at least for now.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
then, of course, we have North Korea.
Yeah, that's just it. North Korea.
Demonstrating stuff.
All it takes is one, legit insane leader, that has a nuclear arsenal under their control to go unhinged a little bit and blow the whole thing to smithereens, right?
Yeah. Indeed. Let's hope it's after our time.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be in the Philippines. Yeah.
Yep. That's not good.
Yeah. Dan, I'm running very low on time.
Oh my goodness.
Let's look at this for a few minutes. I can give maybe 10 more minutes or so.
All right.
I got to prepare some stuff for my next class, but this is an interesting question. Is it possible to pick it up later too?
Today?
Yeah,
maybe. I'm going out of the office, but I've got my setup at home, so I can do it from home. Absolutely.
Or even tomorrow, we could expand on it.
Tomorrow would be good too.
Talk.
Yeah.
Sure. Singularity, as in black hole singularity.
Technological singularity.
A black hole. Okay.
So the technological singularity, or simply the singularity, is a hypothetical point in time in which technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unforeseeable changes to human civilization, according to the most popular version of the singularity hypothesis, called intelligence explosion. An upgradable intelligent agent will eventually enter a runaway reaction of self-improvement cycles, each new and more intelligent generation appearing more and more rapidly, causing an explosion of intelligence and resulting in a powerful superintelligence that qualitatively far surpasses all human intelligence. Right? In other words, runaway AI. You get a computer
Gotcha.
that can build a smarter computer than it is, and so on. Right? Yeah.
Wow. I think it's possible. We're kind of bordering on science fiction writing and science fiction ideas, but I think it is possible, right? I'm not, that up on AI technology at the moment. I mean, I'm interested in it, and I'll of course pursue reading it and studying it. But yeah, I think it's possible, actually. Yes. What time frame? Yeah, right. I think we're looking at. Gosh, that's a hard one. I really don't have any clue, right? Because look at how far we've come in the past few hundred years. I mean, humans have been on the earth for a long time, right? And it took just us in the past century or two since the Industrial Revolution to move this quickly, right? As much as we have in 200 years, 250 years.
Yep.
Right. Boom. Right. Suddenly we've jumped up. Is it a quadratic equation? So the more we go, the more we technologically advance, the faster and yet more technologically will advance. I happen to think, I think it might be that
exponential growth.
exponential growth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
What do you think? I mean, I think I can see it definitely be possible.
I don't think so. And I mean, and it's probably because of my confusion, but to me, so I don't think that we'll ever have real artificial intelligence. I don't think it's possible. I think we can have intelligence that mimics, that on the surface can have the appearance, the veneer of intelligence, but it will never be anything like human intelligence. But maybe that's not the question, because the singularity doesn't necessarily mean human intelligence.
That's
Or
true.
maybe, but see, the thing is, I go back to Gödel,
Okay.
and his
Gödel-Escher-Bach.
right, yeah. Gödel's incompleteness theorem, that any logical system, any system, cannot be both consistent and complete. Okay, and I think that's the key to intelligence, is the fact that humans can function even though we're not either consistent or complete. I mean, we know that even within our own thought processes, we often can identify it in ourselves that we're not totally consistent in some of our in some of the ways that we make decisions and so on, and yet we function just fine. But yet humans, the algorithms that we use for machine intelligence depend on algorithms that are that depend on being complete, right?
Right. No, indeed.
Or consistent,
there's a lot of things in the realm of intelligence.
Right.
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
And I think, mimicking it or grasping exactly, how those work together in functionality, I think it's very difficult.
I mean, what I don't understand is why this always comes up. The idea, the singularity is that we're going to somehow create a machine, an intelligent machine or whatever, create a machine that can then produce something better than itself.
Yes, right.
I don't understand where that concept comes from. Why did we?
That's
because
a good point.
we haven't done it yet. We haven't done anything like that yet.
Yeah, right. And as I think it's, again, a science fiction thought, and I think it's just an interesting and fun thought experiment.
To me, it's almost to me, it's on the same level of impossibility as traveling faster than the speed of light. I mean, I just don't think it's possible. I mean,
and you're right. We haven't done that yet.
Right.
Make something is better than itself and can yet almost destroy itself. Right. We haven't done that.
Yeah. I mean, look, we've had computing machines. We've had calculating machines, mechanical calculating machines for what, 70 years now, 70, 80 years now. I mean, whatever that machine was that Alan Turing helped to make, to break the Enigma code and so on, right?
The Turing machine. Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah. So the Turing machines, and the Turing test, right? We've had
the Turing test,
right? And so far, we have, I would argue, we haven't even come close to a machine that can pass the Turing test. I mean, it's all the best ones that I've seen are just so obvious that this is a machine.
Although recently there was a computer beat the world Go champion.
Right.
Did you see that? Yeah.
Right.
for the first time.
Right. Yeah. So, but that, again, that's, which is impressive. It's very impressive. Very, very impressive. But that doesn't do anything to convince me that it's a person, right? It fails the Turing test, right?
Right. It'll still fail the Turing test. Right. Yeah. How about that? Wasn't there recently two computers? I forget exactly the details, but two computers were kind of communicating with each other on some level, and they kind of started communicating on their own. Do you remember that? What was that? Gosh, what was it? Two computer programs were intertwined and started to function on their own without human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? That was recent too. That was maybe in the last year or so.
Okay, yeah, that I'm not aware of. I'll have to see if I can find information about that.
Yeah, so that was a bit scary to me, actually, and a few other people whom I've talked to. Yeah, so I forget the detail on that, but they started to function on their own, kind of communicating in their own language almost. Was it?
Oh,
yes, utilizing some of their own terminology. I got to find that.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it seems to me that would be the first thing, that they would work on is efficiency within, the parameters that they're given to begin with, which, communication. So a more, a more efficient, mode of communication, or, communicative code would be one of the first things that it would develop. That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
And that doesn't sound human at all. Humans are some of the most inefficient inefficient beings there are when it comes to the efficiency of communication. I mean, we're not good. I'm a prime example. I'm not very good at communicating at all, So.
Yeah, right. I've had some communication difficulties too, right?
Yeah.
Men and women, right, is a good example, right? Yeah. Dan, I hate to say, man, I'm going to have to get going. Let's pick this up, though. I'm going to try to find that article.
Okay.
That info.
Yep.
And I've got a few things going on this afternoon, but like maybe around 4 or 4:30 or so. If you're around, maybe we can pick this up again.
Okay.
Tomorrow is an off day here in Japan.
Right.
I'll be around. I'm not traveling anywhere. I'll be at home though.
Okay.
But we can pick up something and do our usual, my usual broadcast tomorrow too. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah. What about Friday? What are you doing Friday? You got time off on Friday?
Much. Yes. Yeah. I got time off too. So Friday also, if you're around.
Yeah.
We could actually do something. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 days. Yeah. Sometime in the next 2 days. All right. Yeah. So anyway, let's end here and stick around for a minute.
Let's stay on after you finish. A couple minutes.
All right. Okay. So everyone, thanks.
Thank you for watching, everyone.
Yep. Subscribe if you haven't. Sponsor me. Yes. Jeff said he's going to sponsor me, so everybody jump on board. Right.
I guess you can sponsor me too.
Yeah. Absolutely.